Hello, aspiring developers. My name is Shay, and this is Shay Develops. I've been recently learning about CSS Grid, and I wanted to share my knowledge, what I've been learning, with that of the community. Hopefully, you find this informative and you can use it and go create something for yourself. So, we're going to be building this website that you see here on the right hand side of the screen using CSS Grid. I've already built it, but I'm going to rebuild it right here in front of everybody. I'm going to be using the IDE Visual Studio Code to write our code, and you'll see a couple of other plugins. One is the live server. You see that indicated by this Go Live button right here down at the bottom. We'll be pressing that here in a little bit. And Emmet. Emmet allows me to quickly create HTML a little bit faster than I would if I had to write it all by hand. And you'll see that here in just a bit. So the first thing we want to do is create a couple of files. I've already got an index.html file and a index.css file. And we're going to go ahead and start creating the layout for our page using the index.html. So you can see I just put in an exclamation point and hit tab, and eventually got some really quickly got some boilerplate for our HTML page. I'm just going to call this title CSS grid, and go ahead and start off by creating our header. Now use the div.logo. This is where our logo is going to go. And now this is going to be labeled as grid template because I don't have a logo or anything, and I'm not really trying to create one for this. And then next we're going to have our social media area. You can see that right there on the side. And let's see, we have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. There we go. And then we have some icons for these. These are going to be, we're going to pull those over from Font Awesome here in a little bit. So that way we can we'll use them, because Font Awesome's pretty awesome actually for just having allowing us to use their vector styled images to add some some we're going to be using Font Awesome because Font Awesome is pretty amazing, allowing us to use their vector images to put on our site, so that way we can get some quick images without having to create them ourselves. Alright, so after that's done, we are going to create our hero section. So we're going to have a hero wrapper. With our hero message. We'll put you can build a website using CSS Grid. Alright, so let's see how this looks like. Let's save this and we're going to go live. Boom. You see how our server has started. And you see this looks nothing like what we're going to be creating so far. So let's get those Font Awesome icons. Now, in order for you to do it, you're going to have to go onto the Font Awesome website, and they just recently updated and created an account. Before, you were allowed to just grab a CDN and throw it up in your head section of your HTML page, and that would work. And it still kind of does, but now you have to create a kit. You'll see me input mine here in the second. The script tag right there, that's for my Font Awesome kit. And then there I can grab, I've already got these saved, so we have our one for Twitter, I'm going to do that so you guys can see a little bit better. Facebook and Instagram. Awesome. Now we just need to start creating some CSS for it. So you guys can start seeing the power of grid. Alright, so let's create a little bit of a reset area. It's going to be a basic one. We're talking about the body, padding 0, and margin 0. And then our header wrapper, that's going to be our first grid grid area. So in order to tell the browser that we want this to work as a grid, we're going to display grid, and then we can set our grid columns. So in order to do that, we just do grid template columns. You see this pops up for me, and you can use percentages or pixels or ems or a bunch of other stuff, but the preferred method is to use fractions, which you actually don't even see up here on the left hand side of this little code support area. But you can use a fraction just by typing in using the FR keyword, but you'll put a number in front of it. So we're going to go 2FR, 1FR, and give it a border bottom just so you guys can see it. See the the outline of it, and a padding left of 5 pixels. Now once I save this, doesn't look like much has changed, right? It's because we also need to update the social media area of it. So we'll display grid, and then I'm going to show you a different way to do the grid template columns as well, and this will save you potentially save you a little bit of code. And I'm not going to use the FR method here, the fraction method, just because I want them to all stay the same size and not contrast or expand based off of the size of the viewing window, based off if it's like a full screen browser or on a mobile device or something like that. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do repeat, so it'll repeat across the 3 divs. So if we go back here, we see we got social media right here. It'll repeat across this div, and this div. And I do that by 3, comma, and then 30 pixels. So if I wanted to, I could do across 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and that would update based off of whatever number I wanted to put up there. And then next we're going to add, let's go ahead and save that and see what that looks like. Oh, we forgot to do one very simple thing. No wonder it's not changing anything. We have to link our CSS. So we'll do that by index.css. There we go. We can see how our social media icons are now across on the same plane. Alright, so let's continue. Next we're going to add a little bit of space. Let's see, let's actually put a border. I can't spell. I really can't spell. Around the divs that we're going to be using. So we're going to border 1 pixel solid black. So you can see that border around these, right? So now you'll see let's see what this next command is going to do. It's called the grid gap. and that just allows us to put some space around the different divs in order to just add space around the divs. So we're going to use a 2 pixel gap, and again you can use percentage, ems, pretty much wherever you want, doesn't matter. And we'll save that, and you'll see in this type, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and make this like a 20 pixel gap so you guys can see it even more. So you can see the space that we've made. So the gap is actually around the top and sides as well, but you'll see like it's just right now you can really just tell from left to right. So let's go back to a 2 pixel gap, and we're going to justify our content to the end, align items center, and text align center. You're going to see this move from here to here. Alright, and then now also want to change the color of our links. I'm still trying to spell special or something. I don't really know what I'm trying to do there. Alright, social media. I was wondering if something wasn't working here. Okay, so I forgot to put in the header wrapper class for our CSS. There we go. Now that's starting to look a lot better. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut out this section right here. We don't need this border anymore. Save that, get that looking nice and well, and we're going to start working on our hero section. So this is this little area right here, this hero wrapper and the hero message. So our hero wrapper, we're going to display grid. This will be a common occurrence. You'll see this quite a bit. And then we're going to do grid template columns 1 fraction. That means it's going to take up the whole space, all the available space. It's kind of like doing a width 100%. And we're going to do padding 10 pixels just to make sure it's not just pushed up right against the edge of the browser. And we're going to give it a background color of kind of like this darker gray. And you see that popped up right there. It's not very readable at the moment, so we're going to do just a couple of minor updates. So we're going to do hero message P, and then we're going to upgrade our font size to 30 pixels. Text align center. Our color is going to be white. We're going to do a font family of just some sans serif, just kind of generic. And then font weight 100. Alright, and then boom, we got some looking pretty decent actually for a very wireframe looking website. Alright, so let's go back and now add on the content section. So we're going to create a main element, and we're going to start adding where we might put some content. So we div dot main content section. Oh, that didn't work. There we go. We have div dot box 1. Actually, we could just do div.box, and we can do multiply that times 4. That's going to create 4 of those using emit. Boom. And we can do 1, 2, 3, 4. And we actually could even do that even further. So I'm going to go ahead and reverse that. So we're doing that box times 4, but then we can also, within that div, we can put in a p tag, and then boom, now we have all the boxes with paragraph tags in them already for our, get ready for our content. So you can start to see how amazing just emit in itself is. And another thing that emit can do is just lorem and say 30 words, right? Boom, I now just created 30 words. You see it goes all the way out here. We can do this 3 more times, and on the Mac and Visual Studio Code I can hit the Option key and then allow me to type all at every place that I click, and then boom, I make them all at one go. So when I save this, you can see it updated. It looks pretty normal, you know, right now, nothing fancy, but we're going to go into the CSS and we're going to work on it, start getting it to look how we want it. So we have main top wrapper, padding 10 pixels. You know, just give the padding 10 pixels all the way around, so it's got some white space around it. We do main content section, and I may not have created this yet. Oh yeah, I did. Main content section, and that's where we're going to display our grid. We're going to do grid template columns, and we are going to repeat this across 4, and each one of them is going to get a 1 fraction. And then we're going to add some padding within that as well, and a grid gap of 1 EM. Now once I save this, hopefully you got, well, you know, I'm going to continue on just a little further. Main content section, and then within that, look for divs. Oh. Look for divs, and then going to give it a border 1 pixel solid gray and another padding of 10 pixels. All right, so we can save that. And we see how our site's starting to come together, and we can make this bigger and smaller and see how that adjusts as you do it. Now this isn't responsive. Like I said, if we were to go into, you know, the mobile view, you know, it's kind of funky. But so we're gonna stay away from that for now. But it'd be easy enough to upgrade to responsive, and we'll probably make another video where we do that. Because really it's nothing more than changing a few of these CSSs with a media query, and you've got it. Alright, so let's go ahead and close that and get back to our page. So we got main content section div. And I said, voila, that part is finished. Now let's do our 2-column area. Let's go back here. We're outside of the main. Div.2 2-column wrapper. And then we're going to do some nested grid stuff here. So we're going to have column 1, can build a website using CSS Grid. Just some positive motivation for you guys if you're, struggling. Hopefully you're following along. If not, rewatch the video, see what I do. Do some research on your own. I mean, that's how I primarily learned. I do have a degree in web technologies and I've been doing this for a little while, but how I really learned was just practicing and self-taught primarily. Alright, let's create our second column. And then within it, we're going to have our nested columns. So we're going to have 4 of these. Could have done this a little better, but it's all good. Lorem, let's do like 10 words, something short. All right, let's save that and see how that looks. See, like I said, nothing fancy, just some text, as you might expect. Now let's start working on our 2-column layer here down at the bottom. So, of course, we're going to display grid, and then set up our grid template columns. And you'll see as well, go back to that grid template, we got areas and rows. We're going to be going over those in other videos with other layouts that we'll be creating. But for right now, we're just going to stick to grid template columns. Alright, so we're going to do this by 1 fraction and 1 fraction each, because there's only 2 of them. So that way we don't have to create a 3rd or 4th or whatever. We don't need that. Add some padding, 10 pixels. Background, this dark gray color. Oh, messed that up. Forgot a colon. And then do color white so it's readable. We can save that. We can start to see how we got 1 column here and then 1 column here. Let's see, 2-column wrapper. And the div within that, we're going to give that a padding of 20 pixels just to push that off the side some. And then 2-column wrapper, div, our nth child of even. I'm going to change the background color to a light gray just to make this a little bit more readable and start to come together. You can see how that looks like. It's starting to look like here now. We got our main content section, which actually I totally skipped over. I have to go back through and fix that. Right, let's first, we're going to finish up this 2-column section here. So we have column 1, it's going to be display grid. And then something I haven't talked about yet, or actually I just really quickly went over what's the align items. That allows us to align the items within our grid how we want to. So we have center. If we save that, you can see how that moves that down to the center. We have start, which takes it back up to the start area. Then we have end, which will put it down on the bottom. But I want to use center. And that's it for that one. And then the paragraph tag. We want to update the font size to 1.1 EM. And the font family, like I said, just the basic, some sans serif fonts. And we're going to go for column 2. This is going to be our nested column right here. It's going to display grid as well. And then we're going to have our grid template columns, and we're going to use a repeat on this one because it's going to go across, we're going to have 2 rows, which it could be more rows, but 2, so it's going to take the first 2 divs and put them on a 2 fraction row, and then we're going to add a grid gap of 1 EM. Oh, didn't do that. All right. And then we'll save that. You guys can see how we're starting to break up that content right here. However, like I said, if I was to change this to 4, you can see how this now comes across as 4. Or 3. Now have 3 columns across two rows, but we only want 2. Alright, so now we're going to work on our nested column. I'm padding to 5 pixels, border 1 pixel, solid, kind of super close to black, and a background color of white with another color of close to black. So that way you guys can really differentiate what we got here. So see, if I was to take out this grid gap, pushes them all together, and then you add the grid gap back, and it separates them on the sides and top and bottom. Alright, so let's go back up here and add this content section that we forgot from this area right here, this main content section. Alright, so within inside our main content section, have just another H1 tag, main content section, and a paragraph tag, just lorem 50, and create some text there. You see how that automatically started picking up on the grids on the grid. So we don't want that. We want to separate those out. So we're going to create another div, the main top wrapper, just basically saying this is the top bit of content and creating a wrapper for that. Oh, and I seem to have a little bit of an error here. Take that and put it outside of there. There we go. Alright, so that's much better. Just going to clean this up a little bit. Alright, there we go. Alright, so now last we're going to mess with the footer, add a footer here. Sorry, so we got a footer. And then we need to add some columns to that footer. So div dot footer column, we want 3. We're gonna add, well, it does that sometimes. But anyway, do h5. I have an address. And have a paragraph tag. Do address line 1. Use the line break. Address line 2 with another line break, and then do city, state, zip. And here we'll have just some links. So UL A times 5 LI. Alright, so I just created a unordered list with some anchor tags around our list items. And these really don't matter, just do pound signs or hashtags, whatever you want to call them. And do link 1. Actually, I can make this just a little faster with the option key. Link, and then just do 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then our last bit, just like a little about piece, and another paragraph. More, we'll do like 30 pieces of text, whatever. Alright, so see that over here? It is not looking very grid-like yet. So of course we're going to go back into our index.css and we're going to mess with the footer. Make it display grid. Give it the grid template columns. We can do repeat 3 1 fraction. Footer div padding 10 pixels. And voila, you created the same thing that was over here, just different amounts of lorem ipsum text, so it's going to be, a little different. And we didn't like increase the size of this or anything like we were going to. Alright, so hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And if you want more content like this, please like and subscribe. I'll be putting up this more. I also have a book that I wrote that I self-published on Amazon. So if you'd like to support me, you can purchase that there for $2.99. I'll have a link to that in the description as well. And there's going to be a website that's coming out too called shaydevelops.com, where I'm going to be putting up more content, and we'll be talking about different development technologies. Currently I'm learning Java and app development. I've been doing website development for a few years now, and just trying to dive deeper and learn more and educate myself. Hopefully you guys are wanting to do the same. Alright, thank you. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video.